We manage, for example, 11 million pensioners. We manage the money for 11 million pensions in the UK. Our job is to ensure that they have the right retirement when they come to retire. So we can look everywhere in the world and to build those portfolios, to deliver those returns. I think the types of things we're hearing today and we've been talking about, hopefully will encourage more companies to grow in the UK. I think the mention around, not just about, there's a great startup scene. How do you create that scale-up scene? How do you attract that capital? How do you then make sure that companies feel that this is the place they want to list and they want to be long-term? And I think any step towards that is going to make it more attractive for any global investor to think about the UK in terms of that aspect of their portfolios.
I mean, there's a clear implication in all of this that UK investors are slightly risk averse, but is there a danger that he waters down the regulations so much so that we get all sorts of duds floating on the market that we otherwise wouldn't have?
That's why you've got to find the right balance. And I think they've been steady. Been steady as to how they've approached that. I think there is a strong awareness that governance is absolutely crucial. And as I say earlier on, the UK is known for strong regulatory standards. It's actually one of the things that has attracted capital to the UK. So you don't want to water that down to the point where that goes away. But you do need to balance that, I think, with more competitiveness, with change that actually makes companies and management feel like this is the place for them long term. And if you do that, you're going to deliver ultimately returns. If you encourage more domestic capital, that will encourage more companies to stay. So there is a virtuous circle here, I think they're trying to create.
But why do you think the UK does trade at this discount to other markets? I mean, if you take a company like BP, its earnings are very, very similar to those of, say, Chevron in the United States, yet the latter is valued at far more highly than BP is.
I think you can look at lots of different companies and lots of sectors, and there are very specific reasons why any given company, you might see that kind of valuation difference, whether that's specific to the company or whether that's specific to the sector. I think that there is an overall need to try and encourage more UK capital to invest in productive assets. The interview prior just talked about, for example, defined contributions. How do you really activate this huge amount of money that is in defined contribution schemes today and will grow hugely over the coming years? How do you ensure that that is going into productive assets that work both for the beneficiaries but also have that potential knock-on effect that actually you can encourage long-term growth in the UK and again kind of invest in some of those future companies?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about consolidation of some of these DC schemes. Would that be a magic bullet in your view?
I don't think anything's a magic bullet, but I do think that if you think about where can you take the pension system, anything that allows the pension system to have greater scale, both in terms of potentially reducing cost, but also that ability to run portfolios that are going to deliver better returns, I think is a good thing.
Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, the Fed meets later today. The market's expecting another rate rise. Is it nailed on in your view?
In our view, it pretty much is. I think that clearly a little bit of a wobble over the last couple of days has reduced some expectations. But our thinking is that they will hike today, but then we're probably going to move into a phase of pausing. And I think this is going to be what we're going to see actually for most of the big central banks around the world, including the Bank of England and ultimately the ECB as well, which is that they've done a huge amount. I mean, this is the biggest, fastest interest rate hiking cycle we've seen since the 1980s. So we can't forget that. We're now at a point where actually all of that happens with a lag. So now I think we move into this phase of, as the economy slows into the second half of this year, which we think it will, into what is likely to be a mild recession. As that happens, we think the central banks go on pause. And actually there's an assessment of actually what has been the impact of this hiking cycle that we've seen, including the fact that, as we know in the US, everything that's happened in the regional banking sector the last 2 months is having an impact on credit conditions. And we're going to see that start to play through. And as that starts to play through, that'll do some of the Fed's work as well. The challenge is that inflation is still not down anywhere near their target. And so I think what you do end up, where we kind of disagree with some of the market pricing at the moment, is the idea that the Fed will be in a position, say in Q4, to actually start to cut rates in a slowing economy. Because we just think this core services inflation is sticky enough that it's going to restrict the central bank's ability to cut. So we probably go into a pause and then a hold phase as they assess market conditions.
And do you think that has already started to be priced in by equity markets? I mean, if you look at, whether it's the stock 600 here in Europe or the S&P in the US, I mean, they've all made a really good start to the year.
They've had a fantastic start compared to kind of expectations. Generally, most asset classes have done very well, and I think partly that's because actually economic data, particularly in the US, has been stronger than expected. We've had a lot of support from US consumers. They've been very, very resilient. They're spending down the COVID savings that they built up, so that's one factor. And the second factor is that actually earnings have generally been kind of better than some of the expectations. So we haven't really we're seeing an earnings slowdown, but we haven't necessarily seen the slowdown that many people expected. Now, I think there's still risks in the second half that does start to come through, given what we just talked about. And so that hasn't necessarily been priced into equities at this level.
So you think investors are still being a little too sanguine right now?
Well, it's interesting. I think that these markets are kind of drifting up without a huge amount of activity. And so I think investors are being actually very focused on the reality that, cash offers a lot of high yield now. And so what is the new that's the new benchmark when you think about overall building of portfolios.
Absolutely. I could talk to you all morning, but before I let you go, Activision said last week after its takeover by Microsoft was blocked here in the UK that Britain was closed for business. How would you respond to that?
I don't think Britain is closed for business, but we wouldn't speak about any specific kind of company situation. But broadly speaking, I think that the UK is trying to show that it is open, and I think it's really, really important that it does. And one of the successes of the UK has been cross-border activity, and how do you ensure that is still the sentiment that is carried around the world?
All right, Stephen, as I say, I could talk to you all day, but we've got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thanks very much for joining me today. Good to see you. Bit of breaking news to bring you that we've received during the last few moments, and members of the Unite Union, their local government members, are preparing to ballot for strikes this summer after rejecting the latest pay offer. The Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham has said in the last few moments, our members undertake vital frontline roles that ensure local communities are well maintained, safe and attractive places to live. They've now drawn a line in the sand and will not accept any further erosion of their pay. We'll have more on that story throughout the morning here on Sky News as we get it. Other business news now, and Lloyds Banking Group has today reported a pre-tax profit of £2.26 billion for the first 3 months of the year. Well, that was up from £1.5 billion in the same period a year ago, and better than the £1.95 billion that the market had expected. The improvement came despite the bank setting aside some £243 million to cover loans it does not now expect to be repaid in full. The UK's biggest provider of current accounts and mortgages said some £2.2 billion worth of deposits was withdrawn during the period, reflecting the competitive savings market and the need for some customers to pay tax bills in January. The consumer healthcare group behind brands such as Sensodyne toothpaste, Centrum multivitamins and Panadol pain relief has hailed the end of Chinese lockdowns for better than expected sales during the first 3 months of the year. Haleon reported sales of £2.99 billion for the quarter. That was up 13.7% on the same period last year, which was helped also by price increases and stronger than expected demand for cold and flu remedies. Well, pre-tax profits for the quarter came in at £542 million. That was up 16.5% on the same period a year ago, but was slightly shy of expectations. The share price is currently off by just over 3%. Barratt Development said this morning that it was continuing to see a recovery in reservations. The UK's largest house builder by stock market value said that reservation activity in the period had reflected the more challenging backdrop for first-time buyers, but resilient demand among existing homeowners. It said the limited homes for sale in the wider market, the energy efficiency of new homes, and the backdrop of significant increases in rents had all helped to support demand. And the chief financial officer of RS Group, the components distributor, has resigned after admitting to having had a personal relationship with a colleague. David Egan has been with the company for 7 years, during which time he's twice served as acting chief executive, and the company has been promoted to the FTSE 100. Well, Mr. Egan said today, following a detailed review by the board, I recognise that there have been some shortcomings of judgment on my part, and my actions have fallen short of the high standards expected of RS leadership. Therefore, it is right for me to step down from my role. Now, some of the recent results and trading updates from house builders and the builders merchant sector have pointed to a downturn in activity, but there are some operators bucking the trend. Lords Group Trading, a specialist distributor of building, plumbing, heating and DIY goods, today reported a pre-tax profit of £12.8 million for 2022, which was up 69.6% on 2021. The shares are currently ahead by 6.5%. Well, joining me now is the Chief Executive of Lords Group Trading, Shankar Patel. Shankar, welcome to you. I mean, you're focused on the repairs and maintenance and improvement market rather than construction. Do you think that's played to your strengths in this period?
Yes, it has. Our markets are incredibly resilient. RMI, which accounts for 76% of our group revenue, is very supportive of, as the majority of our products are sold, are essential items. And we haven't seen a significant downturn in that as we might have in the house building industry, and in particular anybody who supplies into that sector.
Which are the products most in demand?
At the moment, because we sell a very wide range of products, we do see demand ebb and flow across these categories. Previously, paving, which was a category that did very well post-COVID, is now coming back to its norms. But timber, which had increased in price quite significantly post-COVID, has now dropped in price and again is becoming a leading product category for us. Cement sales, brick sales, whilst not as strong as last year in volume terms, are still holding up in our RMI segment.
That's very interesting. I mean, if I've read you correctly, you're almost saying that you think inflation has peaked in a lot of your product categories.
Across our categories, yes. You still have underlying inflation in products that are energy intensive. Anything that is energy intensive will still, depending on the manufacturer's hedging strategy, may still face some price increases. There are some carbon taxes in some of these products that are flowing through to price increases. But products such as timber and including paving have come down in price. So overall, we're seeing some still continuing, but other product areas coming down in price. So the average increase is not as stark as it was previously in the last 2 years.
And what about your ability to pass on those cost increases to customers?
Thus far, in the last few years, it has been possible. Supply constraint has ensured that for consumers, it's more around availability than necessarily around price, especially with consumers who have committed to products because they're in build. But the side of our business that is quite resilient to product price inflation being passed through is the plumbing and heating, and that is a pure RMI product. We can't see a situation where if you've lost heating in your home or hot water, that you wouldn't want to replace the product that actually supplies that, regardless of whether the price has increased or not. And product price inflation in that area has not been as significant as some of the building materials, which are a lot more energy intensive. So we see ourselves well positioned to be able to pass through product price increases, but hopefully we're now seeing a plateau in the rate of increase and something more palatable for our consumers and customers.
Now, that's very interesting. Now, one of the interesting things about your business, you are very, very, very acquisitive. I think you've done something like 15 acquisitions over the last 5 years. What do you look for when you buy a business?
So we have three key requirements. One is a locational fit. So if there's a business that's either within our geography but provides us with a bolt-on addition in that geography, that's obviously a business that we would look at. We look at businesses that are well run with decent, branch level management teams, but perhaps with owners who want to now relieve themselves of what we call the burden of ownership. So where there is potentially a retirement or a succession issue, those sort of businesses are well placed for us to take them over because we have a very people-centric focus. Our acquisition strategy is around making sure that the businesses that we buy, we retain the teams, and actually we grow and develop the teams of the businesses that we purchase. And then another element is product extension. So where we have product specialism that currently we don't have in our group, we look out to see if there's acquisitions that we can make within our disciplined price range that add that specialism to our business. And last year we bought a business in the dry lining and insulation distribution market, something that we're not prevalent in. That's brought a degree of specialism to our business. We bought a business in boiler spares, again something that we didn't have in our collection of brands, and a business that serves the roofing market. So again, we look out for geography, people, and then product expansion.
All right, Shankar, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, first-time buyers are looking for smaller properties as mortgage rates continue to rise. Well, that's according to the property website Zoopla. Its latest house price index suggests that while three-bedroom homes remain top of the list for people taking their first step on the property ladder, there has been a shift in demand towards two-bed flats. The average asking price of a three-bedroom first-time buyer home is now £230,000, while the average price tag for a two-bedroom property is around £210,000. Well, joining me now is Richard Donnell. He's Executive Director at Zoopla. Richard, welcome to you. I mean, the big thing that jumped out of the results or the index for me is that buyer demand is down 42% year on year. Why is that down to interest rate rises?
Yes, it's all down to the strength of the market over the pandemic. That once in a lifetime re-evaluation of the housing you need. So yes, year on year metrics in housing don't look great. But if you compare back to, say, a normal year of like 2019, actually buyer demand is holding up much better than you'd expected at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, that statement from Barratt Development sort of touched on earlier in the programme. Reasonably resilient state of affairs. Is it cheaper, though, now to buy than to rent?
Well, for first-time buyers are a really key audience group for house builders. We've had Help to Buy, that's now ended. I think in many markets outside London, the South East, a renter looking to buy the home they rent, their mortgage repayments would be up to 30% less than their rent, even at 4 and 5% mortgage rates, as long as they can come up with that deposit. And that's the biggest constraint on first-time buyers. And I think we're seeing sales volumes improve. Demand is down, but the run rate of sales being agreed is 15% above the 5-year average. So there's a motivation to move out there, even though we've got much higher mortgage rates.
Yeah, and yet affordability for first-time buyers, who are the lifeblood of the market, is clearly becoming an issue.
It is. I mean, it's to be a first-time buyer now, you need to be on about 55,000 household income. This is why we're seeing this shift into smaller properties. But first-time buyers are also taking longer mortgage terms, which gets you up to 20% more buying power today, but you end up paying your bank 50% more in mortgage interest payments over the life of your mortgage. And I think working from home also gives people more flexibility. Rather than waiting for longer to buy near work, you can now, for those that can work flexibly, look further afield.
Yeah, interesting. Now, one of the other things that jumped out in the report today is the fact that 1 in 4 properties has seen the asking price reduced. When did you last see those sort of conditions?
Well, that's just getting better, actually. We've just seen quite a big repricing of asking prices. The market was so hot over the whole of the pandemic. People were getting 100% of the asking price or even higher. The market was just so strong. And actually, the real price recorrection has happened with sellers, just having to get realistic again now and take a discount of up to 4 to 5%. So whilst homeowners made 45,000 over the pandemic, on average, they're having to give away 15,000 as a discount. So they're still up. But yes, there's a repricing. We think the worst of the price falls are over now. And I think we're going to have a pretty soft recorrection in house prices.
So no big correction. I mean, when you talk about a soft correction, what do you mean?
We think that this year prices are going to be flat to down by 1%. But as I say, it's that widening of the discount to asking price that's taking a lot of the strain.
In the face of all these interest rate rises?
Well, I think mortgage rates have come down to sort of averaging about 4 to 4.5% now. And the fact for many first-time buyers outside London, the South East, it's cheaper to buy than to rent. It shows the resilience in the market. And I think a lot of the policy changes introduced by the Bank of England, the limits on loan to income, the affordability stress testing have provided a much more resilience to higher rates than you would have expected. And it's probably good news we've had that regulation and has saved us of an overpricing and then a recorrection.
I think you're slightly at odds with the likes of the Halifax, though. They're a bit more bearish than you are.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the banks have put out, I think Santander last week said 10% price falls. So I think that's for sort of economic modelling and capital modelling purposes. We're just trying to look at what's really going to happen in the market, and we can see from our own data that the market's just more resilient than economic models might have suggested.
I think a lot of people will be very pleased to hear you say that, Richard. Good to see you this morning. Thank you. Still to come here on Ian King Live. We're going to have a look at how the markets are doing this Wednesday morning. Stay with us. That's great. Thank you.
So we went to the Yorkshire Three Peaks, and there were 68 of us.
Uganda and Tanzania. And the best part is, Sendwave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use Sendwave? Sendwave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email and phone number. That's it, you're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about Sendwave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Vedasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Difficult. How much money do you think you've raised for this charity?
Pretty sure we've raised about 20,000.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamb.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamb@gmail.com. Well Lamb Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Check me out.
He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that the start of the darkness. Of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world in adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
On the
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Broadcasting live online. Turn it on. Turn it up.
It's your man. Show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there. This is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
Illustration, I guess, of
broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7,
all around the world. In your car,
at work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK. Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Hey there, this is Archie, and it's a Starr Radio UK and the morning show.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK. Approaches the peak of the rate hiking cycle, and
welcome
down in the months ahead. Now, what did you make of the Ryan Pearson this morning, Victor? I mean, is that extraordinary form yesterday, really on the back of one of his peers in the US saying it was worried about weakening demand on the back of ChatGPT?
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio.
One can position itself as the Netflix for education publishing, a subscription service for all those sort of education needs online.
Love for you runs deep. All of you makes my heart beat. You make the doubt they fade. Jesus, and that's what makes you great. You hold the world in your hands, the hand that made me who I am. Same God now, yesterday, and forevermore. And that's what makes you great. You are God. You will never change. You remain the same to the end. To the end. You are God. One who took my pain.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Lord, you reign. That's why.
Welcome.
Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Great is to be praised.
Okay, and that is how I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you and be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. We salute each and every one of you, and we welcome you to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 3rd day of May, the year 2023. Time 10:40 from the House of London, Starr Radio UK, and the morning show. You make my heart beat. I remain yours sincerely, the one and only.
This is the morning show with Archie.
But let me say good morning to my team this morning, Mr. Frank Davids, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, and Mr. Francis Gaye, my able producer, in the house as well. Salute each and every one of you. And also let me say good morning to Anthony Adideji, Aziz, Pastor Momo, Bishop Adesina. A massive good morning to you as well.
Yesterday and forevermore.
Olakunle, good morning. Shamsuddin, good morning. And as many of you who listen to us across the globe, Kojodi, good morning. And Felix, all the way in Aberdeen, good morning to you as well. From now till 12 o'clock, when I take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time, we're going to be looking at the quote for the day, the weather forecast, the travel updates, and we'll move on from there to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe, known as Global Trotting. Then after which we have Ms. Olayomi Koiki joining in at 11 o'clock to bring you updates from Nigeria. The conversation goes on at 11:30. The lines are open for you to add your voice to the discussions. Then at 12 o'clock we take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time today. So in the gist, that's what's going to happen in today. So wherever you are, share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well. Starr, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Love for you runs deep. All of you makes my heart beat. You make it dawn.
When it comes to the quote of the day, it says, always understand that miracles are not God's original way of operation. Miracles are not God's original way of operation. Because he's giving us what is in him to be able to create things by ourselves. So how we go about it? But once in a while he throws in the miracle to do the things. Tons AJ's good morning. It's a good morning, Archie and the great white lion. We love you, Tons. I hope you are doing very, very well.
Took away my shame, Lord, you read.
Okay, let's move on straight to the weather update, and let me tell you what is happening here in the UK when it comes to the weather front. Share with me what is happening in your corner of the world, wherever you might be. Well, for London and the southeast of England, this afternoon we'll see largely dry and sunny conditions. A few patches of cloud will drift in early into the afternoon. Moderate easterly winds expected as well. Tonight will continue to be dry with largely clear skies throughout. The odd patch of high cloud drifting in from the west at times. But there's going to be moderate easterly winds experienced there as well. Temperature 15 degrees, the lowest 7 degrees. Pollen level, moderate UV level, high pollution, low sunset 2026 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 0529 hours. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast. It is Starr Radio UK. It's your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Stay tuned and don't you go away. I'm going to bring you the travel update next.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
However, I can see that the kind of comeback of the middle market.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads. I'll keep it navigated. I promise I'll on the Starr Radio UK travel update. I come to where every day from 10:40. It's now 10:44. So what's the travels like this morning?
It's happening in China, but at a much lower rate than what we've seen.
Well. On the travel this morning, the major let's start it from the underground. On the underground, apart from the central line that's got minor delays, all the others have got good service. DLR good service, London Tramlink and London Overground good service there as well. I'm moving on straight to the major roads in London. Good service throughout, apart from A4 that got serious delays, and that is due to Great South Road. All approaches at the junction, the parkway, the traffic signals are not working, and that has brought about some serious traffic there. So if you can avoid it, do your best to do so. On the river bar this morning, good service there as well. Landing cable car, good service. I'm going on straight to the final segment of the travel update. That's the National Rail. Cross country, first Transparent Express, London North Eastern Railway, Lumo, Northern Rail, Southwestern Railway, Southeastern Railway, and Thameslink have all got minor delays. Also, Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales have got special service. Check before you leave. That aside, all the others, no exceptional delays, good service throughout there. So on that note, as I would do say all the time, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the road.
Guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK. I don't know if some of you were having a different, another feed, double feeds coming through. If you were, my sincere apologies for that. The technical team were working on it. They just found out and were telling me about that as well. But if not, and it's been clear, then well done. Hope you were enjoying that as well. Okay. So now let's go global trotting with some of the stories that is making the rounds. As I did say, Mr. Olayomi Koiki is going to be bringing us details of what is happening in Nigeria. But for now, just stay tuned. Let me bring you some of the updates there. Shawusani tackles weekend for declaring public holiday, closing businesses for Tinubu's visit. And the 10th NAS PDP opposition members elect split over zoning of speaker deputy positions as well. Live for the pit of hell. NEDCOM denies abandoning Igbo in Sudan. Well, we'll be telling you more about that. And then Abia Assembly dismisses Speaker's impeachment and suspends 9 members. Some of the other stories. Top Southeast APC chieftain joins Labour Party. And if Tinubu was sworn in May 29, we go see Shege Banza. Whoa. That is a big one there, but well, I don't get the meaning of that though. And then Tinubu assures Nigerian workers of better wage, social, economic justice. Those are some of the stories that we're going to be looking at as Mr. Olayomi Koiki gets himself ready to join in. But whatever it is, don't you go away. Now, in other parts of the world as well, on the African continent, okay, yes, one before we leave Nigeria, Tinubu's victory. Legal battle begins Monday as tribunal hears petitions. But I think it's going to get anywhere. Somebody say they are just making too much noise for nothing. But well, we'll be following very closely. Now, world's tallest hemp hotel set to open in June in South Africa. Okay, the 12-story building with breathtaking views and a minimal ecological footprint is set to open its doors in Cape Town, South Africa. Hempcrate. Well, we'll tell you more about all those in a moment. And Kenya deadly called Mackenzie to face terrorism charges. Odero remains in custody. And Sudan warring parties agreed to 7-day truce from May the 4th. The warring parties in Sudan have agreed to a 7-day truce starting May 4 in a phone conversation with South Sudan's President Salva Kiir. All right then. So we hope that they see some sense there. They were brethren before they decided to go their separate ways. But if they kind of step in to get them to do things right and then forestall the peace there, why not? Zimbabwe artisans chisel last portraits on tombstones. Well, those are some of the artistic expressions that some of these artists are doing on the African continent, and this is worth celebrating. Now, Parliament approved 7 loans totaling $710 million at emergency sitting. But Professor Peter Koiki has said, now be cautious in approving new loans. Why is he saying so? The other time when we were on the show and then Felix was making a comment there, he was saying that it's going to get to a point that if we don't address this issue that is going on, the wanton dissipation of state funds and the ruining of the economy, we're going to get to a point that when we'll just be there and they tell you that maybe your high commission offices have been taken over by some people that the country owes. I remember back in the day, there were a few times where ships were confiscated because the country weren't able to pay their loans. But has Ghana gotten into that place yet? But this is what the question that Professor Peter Koiki is giving to Parliament. He says, be cautious in approving new loans. What do you think? Maybe they need the loans to keep things or kick things off. What about that? Let's empower women in NDC. Therefore, is saying, well, that is his vibe for the running of the flag bearership competition in the NDC. Is it going to win? Or is it just flogging a dead horse, as some will say? Or more going to be coming your way? And the security in Sahel is disturbing. That's what Bagman is saying. Do or should all those in the West African sub-region, especially in the ECOWAS, look at it, how to tackle this issue, or should countries do it singularly, or what do you think can be done on that front? So come your way from Starr Radio. Okay, 10:53 at the time. Now moving on to other parts of the world, report says that at least 9 dead in Serbia school shooting. A schoolboy has been arrested after shots were fired at an elementary school in Serbia's capital. My goodness. A report puts Russian Navy ships near pipeline blast site. A documentary report Russian naval ship were located near the site of the Nord Stream explosion. But back I think sometime a few months ago, yes, reports were coming in that it could have been the Ukrainians who sabotaged it. But another information coming through. But what do you think? Okay, Russia scales back Victory Day celebrations. The traditional Immortal Regiment procession will move online due to security concerns. That's some of the stories making the rounds there. Nothing we can do but watch babies die. Afghan hospitals in crisis. And a Texas shooting suspect captured after tip-off. Now, Francisco Orepeza, 38, was found hiding in a cupboard after a call to an FBI hotline. So he's been arrested now. So we hope that things get back to normal in that particular place. But when somebody say normal, what do you mean by normal? Okay, Laos government critic gunned down in coffee shop. The 25-year-old had a popular Facebook page where people aired views critical at the authorities. 25 years only, and he's been gunned down. Now, one other news that seems to be troubling is one pertaining to using of 5G on airplanes. Now, air travel chaos looms as US keeps 5G deadline. So what is going to happen there? We'll be bringing you more on that front as the program goes on. Here in the UK, coronation protests allowed. Security ministers say campaign groups have received letters reminding them about penalties and the new protest laws. Well, if you go to protest, not my king, not my whatever, well, they say, yeah, you can go on, but remember. Now, what? Okay, bank closures prompt calls for high street hubs. Now, spaces shared by several different leaders could help communities that have seen, or lenders, my apologies, lenders could help communities that have seen all their branches close. And some of the stories, and don't forget, millions have to work on coronation. Coronation celebration will depend on millions working through weekend, says trade unions as well. And the S&P appoints new auditors as deadline looms. The party risks losing 1.2 million of public funds if it does not file its account by the end of the month. Those are some of the stories making the rounds, and some others that we're going to be bringing from Nigeria. Buhari to attend King Charles III's coronation in London. So Buhari is going to be here. It's going to be one of his final due dates before he leaves the throne. Oh no, not the throne, the helm of the country. The Senate President Igbos deserve number 3 position, Omahi says. Interesting. All right then. So let's take a musical break. Once we come back, we'll be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki all geared up to lead us into what is happening from Nigeria. So stay tuned. Don't you go away. Let me bring you this song from Pastor Theodore Boachiansa featuring Mog, and it says, I Will Dwell. Enjoy, and I'll see you in a moment.
At your feet, I will dwell.
Starr Radio UK.
It's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, Mr. Koiki joining us in a moment, but some of the other stories that we're going to be looking at this morning pertains to imported Indomie special chicken flavor noodles banned in Nigeria. Imported Indomie, the special chicken flavor, has been banned in Nigeria. So we're going to be looking at that, and then the statement made by the Senate President saying Igbos deserve number 3 position. Do you think it's a wise saying? Why they deserve number 3 position? Is it saying that with the presidency going to the southwest and the vice presidency in the north, so maybe the 3rd position, which is the House Speaker, should go to Igbos? Is that what he's trying to say? Or the Senate, I don't know, but we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at that in a moment. When people feel marginalized that way, how do you actually pull them back in? That is why people agitate, because they feel marginalized. They feel they're not being given same opportunities or equal opportunities that others are getting. And those of us who live in this part of the world, we talk about most of the time, so they're being racist because of the color of our skin, and therefore we don't get the opportunities that we're supposed to, and people have been making loads of noise. And therefore, when people in their own communities feel that way, then, I mean, it's something that they also need to do to express their disgust at what is happening when it comes to their rights as citizens of a country. And if that is not addressed, that is when people think that the best way forward is for us to actually also live. Okay? But you don't want that. The issue is, if everybody's living in their house and everything is good and you're enjoying the meals and you are comfortable, whatever, though it might be that things are not all perfect or will not be all like the mildest touch issues, but you feel satisfied in a way. Why not? Why not? Okay. So a lot more are going to be coming your way from there. But whilst we wait for Mr. Olayomi Koiki, let me have a look at some of the other, somebody says, stuff that is going on there. And some of the other stories making the rounds there in Nigeria as well. And then I think I'll be touching on some of the other stories in other parts of the world, so that when Yomi comes, we can just quickly just hop on and continue with what is happening here. Okay. Now Sudan. In Sudan, whilst we wait for Mr. Olayomi Koiki, the warring parties in Sudan have agreed to a 7-day truce starting May the 4th in a phone conversation with the South Sudan president Salva Kiir. Now, the foreign ministry in Juba said Tuesday, raising hopes of an end to weeks of bloodshed. Now, Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy turned rival Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, who commands the paramilitary rapid support forces, have agreed in principle for a 7-day truce from May 4th to 11th, the ministry said in a statement. Now, hundreds of people have been killed and thousands wounded in the fighting as airstrikes and artillery exchanges have pounded swaths of Greater Khartoum, sparking the exodus of thousands of Sudanese to neighboring countries. Now, two sides have also agreed to name their representatives to peace talks to be held at any venue of their choice, the statement from Juba said. Now, Kiir was speaking to Bahrain and Daglo as part of an initiative by the East African Regional Bloc, IGAD Intergovernmental Authorities on Development, which has been pushing for an end to the fighting, echoing calls by the African Union and the international community. So, I think it's a right move. It's a right move there, and we hope, keeping fingers and everything crossed, that it will pan out well for that country, because as we say all the time, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers, and we don't want the people of Sudan. I mean, look at the number of people who have, hundreds of people have died and thousands are wounded as well. Can you talk about properties that have been destroyed and everything? Somebody say life is more important than all that. Yes, I agree with that, but can you just imagine the life that people have lived and everything they've acquired, sweat for, worked hard for, and then in just a split of a second, everything is just wiped off, and then for what? Because of your quest to become leaders, or because you are power drunk? Well, we hope that peace conference that they're trying to attend will end up bringing good news to citizens there. Okay, I think we've got Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who is all set to also come on now. So let's see whether he can hear us. Yomi, good morning.
Very good morning to you back in the studio, Mr. Archie. Good morning, Frank. Good morning to our listeners around the globe, and welcome once again to the morning show, the Wednesday edition, the 3rd of May 2023.
Yes, how are you doing, sir?
Well, I can't complain. It is very beautiful weather out there. It is also the Wednesday, so we're looking forward to the program later on this evening, where we're going to be discussing, artists is now countdown There's a lot out there to discuss, but one thing is that we're doing very well, and it's good to be back again this morning for the program where we continue to discuss everything from Africa on the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Yes. Listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. So now let's go straight to Nigeria this morning. Now, the tribunal is going to be sitting from Monday pertaining to the election results. Now, and we have the 29th as day slated for Tinubu to be sworn in as president of the country. Do you think, or listening to people, experts, or yes, political experts and analysts, do you think there's going to be any change at all, or it's just a done deal? This is just something whitewash, and then we just move on. What do you think?
Well, it seems that those that are in concern, and we're talking about the three main gladiator right here. We're talking about Peter Obi, we're talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we are also talking about Atiku Abubakar. They believe that the judiciary would do the needful, and that would literally bring at least sanity back to what INEC could not perform. You did ask whether this is possible, in terms of looking back to the history of Nigeria. And when we look back the history of Nigeria, we've never seen any upturn of a presidential sitting. We've seen it in the governorship, but not in the presidential. But there's nothing new in the world, they say, and it could be maybe this could be the biggest change in Africa, the biggest in terms of a presidential election. But one thing is next week Monday has now been fixed for the hearing of the petition that is challenging the declaration of the All Progressive Congress standard bearer Bola Tinubu as the president-elect. With this new development, the legal battle by these candidates that are disputing the outcome of the 2023 presidential poll will commence May the 8th. One thing is, according to legal advisor, for the APC, Ahmed Ali Mazouk, has confirmed the date. He said the APC legal team had been briefed and was ready to defend the party's mandate. We have been briefed about the hearing coming up, but who told you the election petition at the tribunal was necessary be concluded before the May 29th? The question is, are you saying that if you were not concluded before President Buhari leaves, the government should be left in vacuum and the president-elect should not be sworn in? It is not a must, he stated in response to the question about the time it would take for the petition to be decided. We're talking about time frame now. Today is the 3rd day of May. That literally means that we have 26 days to count down before May 29, when the swearing in is meant to take place.
It's interesting because it was the timeline that I was also looking at. That has the tribunal given any timelines that look, we're going to be sitting for a month and then we'll make sure that we adjudicate by that time? Have they said anything of the sort at all?
Well, I mean, like I said, no one will be able to confirm, how quick this tribunal will conclude. But what we do know is that, there is a big challenge from Atiku that is the second, and the Peter Obi at the third runner, and the three of them doesn't seem to be satisfied with the 25th poll. But whether the timing will bring back, sanity between now and 26 days. I mean, then time will tell. But Tinubu, in a preliminary objection filed by his team of lawyers led by Chief Olanikwekun, saying, pray that the court to dismiss the entire petition. Well, he will not be able to do so because it seems that everything is about prayer in Nigeria. But what the petition that have been submitted is all about the evidence, not about the prayer this time around.
Okay. Well, we hope to see what is going to happen on that front. But that will lead me straight to the statement that the Senate President has made, saying that Igbos deserve number 3 position. That Omahi saying that. What does it mean by that? Does it mean that in the hierarchy, because Tinubu has won the presidency, maybe the vice president, because he also hails from the north, maybe either the speaker or maybe one of them, the third in command of the country, should be Igbo. Is that what he's trying to say? Or he thinks that Igbos are not that good and therefore they have to be, after these two have taken their place before they come in?
Well, the current situation in Nigeria, it's a very, very turbulent one. I mean, we've never seen a situation where we have a Muslim ticket. So we've now got a vice president and a president that is Muslim, and that literally means that if the northern part of Nigeria wants to get the Senate, which is the third position, then there's likely that we will then have Muslim. But in a nutshell, I mean, it's meant to be power sharing balance, so that way all other regions are carried along. But the Senate president, Igbos deserve number 3 position, is coming from Umahi. The Southeast deserve the number 3 position, says the governor David Umahi. Says that the Southeast deserve this Senate president to deepen the nation's democracy. But we know that Ahmed Lawan is still vying for that same position, even though he shouldn't be in that position because he has already contested under the primaries of the APC. Mr. Umahi stated this when he addressed the State House correspondent after he had a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari doesn't have much say anymore, in terms of what Tinubu will be deciding, but it might influence that. But according to him, having given the needed support to President-elect Bola Tinubu, the Southeast should now be compensated with the position of the Senate president. Okay, if that is how he is calling it, then fine. But again, someone will say merit. There's a person who is there that's qualified to do it, but for power balance sake, I think it's something that if they do, it will help us greatly. Well, it is Starr Radio UK, updates from Nigeria, with Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios. Now we have President Buhari coming to the UK. Is it going to be his last assignment, or as the president of the country, some international assignment that he's attending to? Well, I've been listening carefully to you before joining, and this weekend is kind of been one of the biggest showcase that the UK will be projecting again to the international community, especially after the last one, which was the death of Queen Elizabeth II, and the whole ceremony. We could see, what UK does best in terms of, the PR, getting things right, and I'm sure there's a lot of training going on. I was listening to the, morning from another broadcast this morning where there was a disturbance, in Buckingham Palace, I believe yesterday. This weekend, might see that President Muhammadu Buhari might be coming again to London. We thought that his final trip would be to Saudi Arabia, but it has now been confirmed that President Muhammadu Buhari would also be attending King Charles, coronation that is coming up, within the next couple of days, which is Saturday here in UK. A very, very busy one. I believe Buhari might arrive probably on a Friday. Maybe by the time he's arriving, Ike Kirimadu will have been sentenced, and then, as much as there's still a lot of pressure from the Nigerian, government, not literally Buhari, but from the House of Red, they are sending letter to the British government to put a bit of lenient to, Ike Kirimadu's sentence, but I'm not sure whether anything will change. But also, Buhari has also said, I have delivered on the change agenda. What does he mean by that? President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday in Abuja said his regime had delivered change to Nigerians, especially in the area of affordable housing. Appraising his regime performance in office during the inauguration of a housing estate in Zuba, Abuja, the president claimed that the new housing estate was addressing multidimensional poverty among the citizens.
Okay, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. So I hope that they are not coming this time around like what happened the other time where they were all put when the Queen died and they were buzzed. All the the president or leaders of various countries were buzzed. So Buhari will not have his own car to sit in. But we hope to see what is going to happen. I know, because if they want to bring them, let them come in individually. I bet it's going to take us ages for the coronation to take place. But we'll see what happens there. We welcome him. Yes, he has to come. That's his last international assignment. All right. Now let's move on straight to some other stories before I hand over to Yomi to bring. Now, Sheikh Husani is tackling Wike over declaring public holiday and closing businesses for Tinubu's visit. Why is that a problem?
Well, Nigerian politicians are always looking for favor, and that literally means that favor means that a kind of backing to who is going to be the next president. Now that Tinubu is going to be the next president, there's going to be quite a lot of movement, quite a lot of shake and there. But Wike are desperate for favor and accommodation is coming from Sheikh Husani. Sheikh Husani was one of a former senator, a former lawmaker. Says has slammed Governor Nelson Wike of Rivers State for grounding economic and social and educational activities of the state over the visit of President-elect Bola Tinubu. Sani said it is a mark of desperation for favor and accommodation, which we do know. Like I say, that most of these, governors and politicians does. Recall that Wike had declared Wednesday today as May 3rd public holiday over Tinubu's 2 days visit to the state. Tinubu is also expected to commission some projects while in the state. However, Sani, a social critic, says that Wike grounding economic activities because of Tinubu visit was just a mark of desperation and of favor as well.
Well, he's a governor already, so I don't know what favor he wants from the president.
Well, I mean, Wike has already completed his term. He's going to be leaving, so that means he might be expecting Tinubu, even though they are both in different political parties. PDP has been Wike for almost so long, even though he couldn't get the presidential ticket, which Atiku Abubakar got. And probably he hasn't made any move in terms of moving to APC. But as we do know, he's probably looking for soft landing by the time he's completing his governorship, when Tinubu will be taking over as the new president under the APC.
So do we say that Wike is no more part of the PDP? The way he's going about things looks like he's departed the PDP completely then.
Well, Wike has not yet officially said so, but he never gave Atiku the full support Atiku needed. Remember, there were the 5G governors that all refused to allow certain part of the the PDP members in their state to endorse Atiku, and that is still a wrangling that is going on as we speak right now.
Well, I know that Atiku might be saying that they are the cause of his defeat. If not, maybe he would have garnered more support there. But well, listeners, it's Starr Radio UK. Now let's come to one serious incident or issue that is going on pertaining to the Indomie. Now, the Director General of the National Agency for Food, Drugs Administration and Control, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, has hinted at the reasons behind banning the Indomie Super Chicken flavor in Nigeria. Have you tasted that one before, the Super Chicken flavor?
Well, I've tasted both the onion and the chicken. But one thing about what we do know in terms of food into the country is not us as the same. I mean, almost every country are very, very skeptical. Yeah, in UK, you probably won't allow to bring cheese from certain countries, and dairy as well, and so many other food, because of food poisoning, and that could also have impact. But citing fewer clinical tests, registration and production of the flavor in the country, Adeyeye said the agency has now commenced sampling and analysis of other Indomie noodles flavors, including their seasoning, for the presence of ethnic oxida. She assured Nigerians of a thorough investigation of the product, both at the factory and the market level. In a statement that was made yesterday to the agency, made available to the newsmen, Adeyeye claimed the outcome on the sample analysis of the product will be made public. It partly read Indomie instant noodles product and other brands of noodles registered by NAFDAC for sale in Nigerian market and manufactured in Nigeria are only guaranteed NAFDAC registration status. We know that this is one of the most eaten produce in Nigeria, not for any other reason. It's very cheap, it's quick to produce, and it's quick to to cook. So that literally means that they've been able to settle down in a market in Nigeria where there's about almost 200 million Nigerians. Not everybody can afford it, but like I said, it's still one of those meals that goes with so many Nigerians from southeast to the southwest to the north to the middle belt.
Because I know my granddaughter, I've got a granddaughter, in Ghana, and then the mom would say that she likes in Indomie. So I bought some and just steamed. So I was thinking, what are they talking about? But I know that buying it from here, it's been tested and everything before it gets on the markets here. But as we are saying, if they have to do diligence to scrutinize it to make sure that it's not got any health implication, why not? That would be okay. But do you think that people care about when the leadership come to make such statement?
Well, I mean, it gives a bit of assurance, even though we know in a market like Nigeria, everything goes, but it is still also important for NAFDAC to make sure that whatever goes within the market is very consumable, for the citizens. But like I said, as much as we've seen even cows that have end up died and people still end up eating them, it seems that Nigerians, due to the situation on the ground, as the capital poverty of the world, everybody hardly care what they are eating, unlike here in Europe, where whatever you are taking is very, very important, but it's also the responsibility of the government, which they're actually doing by making sure that whatever noodles is being produced in Nigeria or brought into the country is something that needs to be checked. She, however, say it is important to mention that noodles are on the import prohibition list of the federal government, so you cannot import them into the country. It has to be produced in Nigeria and therefore are not permitted for importation to Nigeria, according to the federal government.
Oh, I see. Well, it's good. It's created an industry and it created jobs for Nigerians. So why not? All right then, listen to Starr Radio UK. Let's go back to Yomi for the rest of the stories making the rounds. Over to you, sir.
Due to the time constraint, we're just going to go straight to one or two more. Federal government have now sued Facebook owner and demands 30 billion naira. What could be the reason? According to ANCOM, is seeking 30 billion naira in fine and sanction for continued violations and infractions of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria Act number 23 of 2022. The Abuja division of the Federal High Court has now granted the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria leave to serve a writ of summons on the Meta, the owner of Facebook. The court gave the nod to an application by ANCON in pending 30 billion naira suit against the social media giant for violation of the extant advertising laws of Nigeria. We do know that Facebook goes through a lot in different parts of the world. It seems that the Nigerian government are not also relenting. One of the most important documents that anyone around the world as a country have is what they call the passport. But the corruption in the passport sector, and I'm even talking about here in UK, where you have to pay certain amount of money, up to 100 to 150 pounds, before you can be getting your own passport. I mean,
in the Nigerian High Commission.
Oh yes, yeah, in UK, in the Nigerian High Commission, there's a lot of individuals that have paid such, and there's a lot of evidence around that as well. So if this is happening in UK, trust me, in Nigeria is just a lot of different scenarios as well. We have a lot of Nigerians that are stuck in Libya, where the IOM is trying to bring them back to Nigeria, but the Nigerian embassy in Libya is demanding about 500,000 naira from some of these individuals. Some of them have been in prison for the last 2 years, and the Libyan have said, take them back to Nigeria. IOM is ready to facilitate it, but the Nigerian embassy in Libya doesn't want to do the same thing. All they're asking for is money. But it now seems that this headline says few corrupt officials are undermining the passport insurance, according to Aregbe Shola Raufu. And like I said, a lot of Nigerians have complained to us here in UK, when they're trying to apply for their Nigerian passport, they have to kick back, just as kickback is not allowed. But even here in UK, it's still something that goes ahead at the Nigerian High Commission at Northumberland here in London. The Minister of Interior, Raufu Aregbesola, says few corrupt officials are undermining the effort of the Nigerian Immigration Services at sanitizing the process and bringing integrity to the passport application. Aregbesola was making this known in Oyo Town while he was inaugurating the NIS passport front office on Tuesday. Also, you might not believe this, but this happened even up to last year. You can still change your date of birth when you even have one when you want to get a new passport.
Interesting. Okay, that's quite an interesting one. But listen to Star Radio UK. Now, before we run up the conversation, what is happening on the social media platform?
Well, the social media has been full, and maybe tomorrow, if time permits, we might be taking us to where Seyi Tinubu, the son of the president-elect, is buying a house that the federal government confiscated from Dezeni and Aluko, one of those those criminals that stole so much out of the crude oil proceed and bought a house there in UK. What we found out was that Seyi Tinubu, according to Bloomberg yesterday, released information that a house was paid by one of his companies to the tune of $11 million right here in St. John's Wood. We have the house address, and I might be visiting that maybe tomorrow, Friday, if time permits. But what we do know that that is now generating a lot of conversation. How Tinubu's son, Seyi Tinubu, firm, paid 11 million. There's nothing wrong if he's buying a property in UK, but the problem is the property he's buying is what Buhari confiscated from another criminal gangs known as Dezeni, the former minister of petroleum, and Aluko, his boyfriend that was moving money on her behalf. And that is generating a lot of conversation since yesterday on the social media when the news actually broke. After we left, Star Radio UK, the news broke. Amechi is trending. It seems that London is trending at about 254,000, not literally because of the coronation that is coming, even though we know Tiwa Savage will be playing according to the news from the Buckingham Palace, but it is all about the corruption. And according to JP says, the corrupt document seen by Bloomberg shows for the first time that Tinubu's a 37-year-old Seyi Tinubu is the main shareholder of Aranda Overseas Corporation, an offshore company that paid £9 million to Dutch Bank for property in North London in the late 2017. This same property was meant to have been confiscated when Buhari came in 2015. According to Bloomberg Africa itself, it says Nigeria target a 11 million London mansion over a corruption probe. The question then is this just the beginning of corruption, or is corruption just something that will never end in Nigeria? We're going to take one more from the social media this morning, and I'm going to return back to you. So tonight, we'll be reviewing how much can you get from being part of criminal activities in Nigeria, or the influence, and you can end up buying a property here. So we're going to be looking at that later on Niger Voices. How did Seyi Tinubu manage to buy this property, and how was the money being moved from one end to the other? So let's look at some of the other things that is trending. At about 19 minutes ago, Simon Ekpa, the Biafra government in exile, a popular pro-Biafra agitator, a separatist, has reacted to the alleged lynching of a business people in different locations in Lagos State. He also condemned the demolition of the properties of the Igbos in Ajao Estate. That is coming from Simon Ekpa there. So let's take a look at some of the other news as well. I'm not sure why Saudi Arabia is trending. We know that Nigerians have a lot of relationship with Saudi Arabia, but Nigeria seems also to be trending at about 13,000. So let's look at while Saudi Arabia is trending, because we know that people have just returned back from Umrah. But let's see. It might got to do with it seems that it's got to do with Messi, and Nigerians are falling in love with Messi and Ronaldo. And when that is trending on Nigerian network, it's definitely because of Lionel Messi. From what we are reading here, Lionel Messi has been suspended for 2 weeks by the PSG and will be fined after taking an unauthorized trip to Saudi Arabia. So you can tell that Nigerians with the football is back to back. So that is why that is trending this morning. But again, Nigerian itself is trending at about almost 13,000. And let's say why Nigerian itself is trending. And that has got to do with 13,000 Nigerians benefited from the flood relief intervention by the federal government. President Muhammadu Buhari commissioned 748 housing units. We hope this is going to go to the to the people, not just corrupt politicians as well. And it seems that is the reason why that 13,000 is trending. Also, I believe it's got to do with the flood relief intervention. 13,000 Nigerians. Well, not a big number, but whoever benefit from that, At least that will relieve them a little bit. Star Radio UK until about 6 o'clock later on this evening, when we come back with the Niger Voices, and we'll be discussing Sheyi Tinubu, his property in London, and election petition next week Monday. So it's a mixed bag of a lot happening later on tonight. But like I said, there's just too much going on in Nigeria. And according to Eddie Young, Nigerian High Commission UK is a shamble. I am so hungry. Kunle Shita says, good morning. Kingsley says, corruption can never end in Nigeria. Shegun Wano says, greetings to Star Radio UK. Christina Ademola says, good afternoon. Justin Reason says, Yoruba nation enthusiasm does not mean we should ignore goings on in Nigeria state, though. And as well, Adetayo say, but is there anything that concerns us with Nigeria? And that is the reason why Justin Reason say, well, even though if we are fighting for Yoruba nation, we still have to talk about the issues in Nigeria, which is definitely the country that a lot of us wants to live. And if you're not talking about it, then what are you going to be talking about?
Of course, we have to talk about it. Even we talk about other countries that we don't hail from. We look at their current issues and we talk about them. So why not the geographical area that you are living? We have to talk about what is going on. All right then. Okay, Yomi, let me say thank you very much, and we'll see you at 18 hours.
Bye for now.
Bye. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios, bringing you updates from Nigeria. And as we said, this evening exactly at 18 hours BST, he's going to be joining us to bring us Niger Voices. So make a date and don't touch the dial. Let's take a quick commercial break. We come back and then we continue with the show. Stay tuned. Star Radio UK, the Wednesday edition of the morning show.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancer taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancer taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Star Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Orta, you say fire.
Welcome back to the program Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 11:39. Okay, that means we've got about 20 minutes to take you through all the other stories making the rounds. Before Yomi joined in, I was looking at a story pertaining to the peace accord or ceasefire, 7-day ceasefire that has been called by the warring factions in Sudan. It was championed by the South Sudan leader, Kerr. Yes, and I like that when one of us, when we our own siblings or our own families are fighting, and then we are able to resolve it amongst ourselves. So I hope that they listen to, wisdom or sense, as some will put it, as it goes on. But well, On that line, the Arab League, African Union and UN has intensified efforts for peace in Sudan. The head of the Arab League held talks on Tuesday with representatives of Sudanese military leader General Abdel Fattah Barren at the organization's headquarters in Cairo. Now, speaking after the meeting, the Fala Al-Hajj Ali said the crisis in his homeland was an internal matter and warned against any external interference. So we should sit down and let you kill yourself, okay? And then people will say, are you sitting there looking at us? We are dying, and looking at every repatriation and stuff that has been going on at the moment. Well, I am talking to you now, and there are contacts regarding the completion of these truce, but we want these truce to be with the participation of the political institutions to which we belong. The first of which is the Arab League and also the African Union, but that it takes place with their approval, and in all its details, we do not accept anything imposed on us by whichever direction, said the Fala Al-Hajj Ali, now special envoy of General Abdel Fattah Barren, president of the Sudan Sovereignty Council. On Tuesday, the African Union, in collaboration with the United Nations and IGAD, announced a new concerted effort to de-escalate the ongoing conflict in Sudan. During news briefing at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, African Union Commission Chairperson spokesperson Mohamed El Hassan Lebad announced that the Union had agreed on the necessity to intensify collectively and individually all our efforts to reach as soon as possible a complete and conditional, efficient, inconclusive ceasefire all over Sudan. So we hope to see, watching it very, very closely, we'll see what will happen on that front. Now, Nomad's Festival returns to Morocco. It's one of the stories making the rounds. But in Kenya, well, the Kenyan opposition, the police has clashed with anti-government protesters in the capital in Nairobi on Tuesday in a fresh round of demonstration called by the opposition leader. The opposition MPs went to the speaker's office in the Central Business District to present a petition. The police dispersed them using tear gas. Now, Vice President Rigati Gachugagoa told us, "We know where to find them. We know it. We went there and met the police. Cowards," said Senator Edwin Sifuna and Nairobi County. Now, protesters who showed up in the morning to erect barricades on the city's main roads threw stones at the police, who responded with tear gas. A bus and a freight truck were set on fire. Now, business was brought to standstill in Kisumu County on an opposition stronghold as police clashed with protesters. The opposition is calling for measures to tackle the cost of living and reform to the Electoral Commission, which oversaw the election won by President William Ruto last year. The question is, when Odinga was the vice, also part of the government before they went for the election, why didn't they look at that reform? They said, let's reform that, let's reform that. When it beat him, or went contrary to what his view or what he wanted, now he said that, you know what, we have to review that. So when it's playing, when it's good for you, we forget about everything. It's cool because I'm benefiting from it. The moment I don't benefit from it, I think that we need to reform it. And that seems to be the African politics. And well, what do you think about all that? Now, Interior Minister Kituru Kindiki in a statement reported acts of violence and looting carried out by hordes of criminals posing as political protesters, saying law enforcement have instructed to enforce the law firmly and decisively. A total of 46 people were arrested on Tuesday, according to the minister. It's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, let me bring you this one, and then we'll move on straight to some of the other stories making the rounds. Now, 30 media outlets, journalists, associations, and freedom of expression organizations on Wednesday called on the ruling juntas in Mali and Burkina Faso to protect journalists in the face of growing threats. In an open letter published on the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, the signatories of the appeal said that the situation of journalists in Burkina Faso has become critical. They are alarmed by calls for the murder of journalists and opinion leaders, threats and intimidation of the national press, grotesque set-ups against journalists, suspension of international media, RFI and France 24, expulsion of correspondents from French newspapers, Liberation and Le Monde. In Mali, too, pressure and intimidation are on the increase, say the signatories, who include a number of Burkinabe media outlets, the Malian television station Joliba and the French media France 24, Liberation, Le Monde and Radio de France Internationale, as well as Journalists Association and rights organization. Well, I hope that it's not just talk, but that whatever they've discussed or said is one that has been heard, and some way, somehow, is going to resolve the issue at stake. But this is Star Radio UK. Moving on straight to Ghana as well. Well, receiver for defunct Unibank can testify against you, Supreme Court tells Dufour. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that the receiver of the defunct Unibank, Ni Amono Dodu, can testify in the criminal trial of the bank's founder, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, and other officials. Mr. Dodu was the state's first witness in the trial, but lawyers for Dr. Dufour urged the court not to allow him to testify. They argued that the receiver had breached sections of the Banks and Specialized Deposits Act 2016. The lawyers explained that he was appointed as receiver of Unibank after being a partner of KPMG, which audited the accounts of the bank. But the state opposed the objection. The director of the public prosecution, Yvonne Atakura Obuabisa, admitted that Mr. Dodu was previously a partner of KPMG. She, however, argued that his appointment as a receiver was lawful. She urged the court to dismiss the objection since the witness meets the requirement for qualifying to testify. The Court of Appeal Judge Bright Mensah, who is hearing the matter as an additional High Court judge, dismissed the objection and upheld the Director of Public Prosecution's argument. He stated that the Section 59 of the Evidence Act explains who is not qualified to testify. This includes someone who is incapable of coherent expression so as to be understood directly or through interpretation by another person who can understand that person, or incapable of understanding the duty of a witness to tell the truth. The receiver was therefore asked to take the oath and proceed to testify. Dissatisfied with this decision, Dr. Dufour and the officials took the matter to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal affirmed the High Court decision, leading to a further appeal to the Supreme Court. But the ruling, the Apex Court on Wednesday, that's today, May 3, 2023, affirmed the Court of Appeal decision by a majority of 3 to 2 decision. Justice Paul Bafo Boni, Professor Mensa Bonsu, and Samuel Siedu made up the majority, while Justice Gabriel Puamang and Amadou Tanko dissented. Dr. Kwabena Dufour and 8 others are facing a total of 71 charges for various roles they played that led to the collapse of some financial institutions. Well, is it something to derail his quest to become the presidential candidate of the NDC, and if he wins, becoming the president of the country? What do you think about all that? More going to be coming your way. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, one other story quickly, and then we'll move on. Well, the Supreme Court has in an unanimous decision dismissed a case challenging government decision to permit metropolitan, municipal and district chief executive to remain in office in an acting capacity. Now, members of the Parliament for South Day, Roxanne Nelson Defumakbo, had contended that government's directive was contrary to the constitution. Now, President Kufuor, at the commencement of his second term, asked MMDCEs to remain in office in an acting capacity as he undertook consultation towards making substantive appointments. Now, the legislator, through his lawyers, led by Ni Kpapo Samuel Ado, took the matter to the apex court, but that has been the ruling of the court that has unanimously thrown the case out. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. 10 minutes to the top of the hour. So let's quickly touch on some other stories making the rounds this morning. A huge operation has taken place in Belgrade. Now, a huge police operation after Serbia school attack. At least 8 students and security guard are dead after a shooting at the school in Serbia capital Belgrade. Another 6 people and teacher were injured in the attack and have been taken to hospital. The Interior Ministry said in a statement. The police arrested a 14-year-old student at the Vladislav Ribinka school in central Belgrade in connection with Wednesday's morning attack. The suspect is alleged to have used his father's gun, officials said. An investigation into the motive behind the incident is underway. Officers in helmets and bulletproof vests cordoned over of the area around the school located on the central Vraka neighborhood schools shortly after 0840 local time, that's 0740 GMT. The police sent all available patrols immediately to the spot and arrested suspected minor, a 7th grade student who is suspected of firing several shots from his father's gun in the direction of student and school security, and the Interior Ministry said in a statement. All police forces are still on the ground working intensively to shed light on all the facts and circumstances that led to this tragedy, it added in a statement. Okay, sad one there. Those who are dead, may their souls rest in perfect peace, and our condolences to their families, and a speedy recovery to those who have been maimed in one way or the other. Let me just touch on some of the headlines. A documentary report: Russian naval ships were located near the site of the Nord Stream explosion. Well, we hope. I mean, everyone is saying, accusing each other of what is happening, but well. Now, in another story from the Russia, once again, several Russian cities have announced they will scale back this year's Victory Day celebration. Russian authorities have cited security reasons and attacks from pro-Ukrainian forces for the changes. Explosions and fires have occurred in Russia in recent weeks, but some have argued that the reduced event show the Kremlin is nervous about celebrations turning into show of dissent against its invasion of Ukraine. Now, great pomp and shows of military might are the usual hallmarks of Victory Day, which marks the Soviet Union victory over Nazi Germany on the 9th of May 1945. Now, one of the day's most recognizable event is the Immortal Regiment procession, which sees people across the country marching, holding photographs of their relatives who fought in World War II. Well, we'll be looking at that next week, Tuesday, God willing. All right then. Now let's move on straight to one other story making the rounds this morning, and this time round, one from Laos. Laos activist Anusa Loansumphom killed in a brazen public shooting. A well-known critic of the Laos government has been shot dead in a late-night attack in the capital. Anusa Jack, 25, was shot point blank in the face and chest while sitting at a coffee shop on Saturday. He had ran the Capclan dual keyboard driven by keyboard Facebook page, where people dared to express criticism of the communist authorities. Now, rights groups have condemned officials for not yet announcing an investigation into the brazen cold-blooded killing. The security cameras captured the attack. Now, footage shows a gunman dressed in a brown long-sleeved shirt and black cap entering the cafe and firing twice at Loansumphom, who is seated on the floor before fleeing. He died on the way to hospital. The young activist had been one of the few people in Laos who regularly and openly expressed views that were critical of the government, Human Rights Watch said. Now, this sends a spine-chilling message that no one in Laos who criticizes the government is safe, said the group's Asia director, Elaine Pearson. Well, it is a sad one. May his soul rest in perfect peace. A couple of stories, then we bring the program to a close. I'll take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. The teacher strike affects more schools than ever. Members of the National Education Union walked out for the 5th time in England yesterday. And we know the roads were quiet and, well, they are back today though. Now, coronation protests allowed, security ministers have said. The security minister, anti-monarchy groups will be allowed to protest at the King's coronation on Saturday. Security Minister Tom Tagenet has insisted. However, they will not be permitted to disrupt others, Mr. Tagenet said. His comment came after protest groups received letters reminding them about changes to the law targeting serious disruption, including attacking or attaching themselves to people or infrastructure. The controversial public order bill came into effect on Wednesday. The letter sent on the 28th April by the Home Office Police Powers Unit to groups include Republic, which campaigns for abolition of the monarchy, said that upon coming into effect on Wednesday, the public order bill will include penalties for specific criminal offenses, including locking on and interfering with key national infrastructure and procession. Now, in a quote, he said, I will be grateful if you could publicize and forward this letter to your members who are likely to be affected by these legislative changes, the letter said. Graham Smith, CEO of Republic, described the letter as intimidatory and very odd. We've been liaising closely with the police about the protests for weeks. We've had meetings with them, he said. He told the PA news agency. They said very clearly that they have no problems with our plans. I just can't understand why the Home Office thinks it's appropriate to send a letter like that, which was anonymous in terms of no person's name on it, he said. He added that there are plans for 1,700 people to protest in London's Trafalgar Square on Saturday. Kudos to them. Let them do their protests. Everybody got a right to decide his or her own destiny. All right, a final story. The SNP has appointed new auditors as a deadline looms. The SNP has signed a contract with a new auditor more than 6 months after the previous firm quit. The SNP's Westminster Group risks losing 1.2 million of public funding if it does not submit audited accounts by the 31st of May. Now, group leader Stephen Flame said he was now confident that the deadline will be met. The party must also file its audited accounts with the Electoral Commission in July. Hamza Yusuf, the SNP leader and Scotland's First Minister, said Manchester-based AMS Accounts Group had agreed to complete the accounts for both the party and its Westminster Group. All right then. So, this is where I bring the program to a close for today, taking you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But enjoy this music whilst we line it up for you from Mika Paris, and it says Something Inside. You know what? So strong. Enjoy.
This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Thanks for listening.
The further you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me. You can decide to turn your face away.
This is Starr Radio UK.
No matter cause
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. The more you refuse to hear my voice, the louder I will sing. You hide behind walls of Jericho. Your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time. You squander wealth that's mine. My light will shine so brightly it will blind.
Sector, for example, we hear from the Russell Group, who say that our negotiations are a serious step forward, and the ambition of the proposals for Pioneer is welcome. More details will become clear as negotiations progress, but I cannot give a running commentary.
I think it seems that the Tory science superpower is actually just cooking the books. Now, ministers promised to increase science spend outside London and the South East by a third, while doubling it overall, so our regions continue to miss out. Now they're refusing to replace European regional development science funding, slashing 600 million from our what should be our regional powerhouses. That's not levelling up, it's holding us back. The country knows it, does she?
Mr. Speaker, I think she's mischaracterising this very badly and in a way that does not help to command confidence in our shared mission to make science, innovation and technology the success that it needs to be for this country. She will have seen my right honourable friend's presentation at the budget, the Chancellor's presentation at the budget, which makes clear just how seriously we take science in this country, and that level of ambition will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, Sir Patrick Vallance stepped down as Government's Chief Scientific Advisor after 5 years in the role in which government investments in science has doubled, but most of all he became a household name for his handling of COVID and the leadership he showed.
And hope. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Sir Stephen Timms.
Mr. Speaker, at question time last week, column 725, the Prime Minister referred to record numbers of people in work. In fact, as he knows, the number of people in work at the moment is still less than it was just before the pandemic, 122,792 less, according to the latest official figures. Will he reassure the House that he's not slipping into the bad ways of his predecessor but one? And will he properly correct the incorrect statement he made last week?
Mr. Speaker, that clarification has already been made, Mr. Speaker, in Hansard, but there are near record numbers of people in work and in payroll, and that is thanks to the actions of this government, Mr. Speaker, one record we're very proud of.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Non-compliant hand car washes seem like a cheap and quick way to have our cars washed, but unfortunately behind this £1.8 billion industry is hidden money laundering, fraud, drug dealing, prostitution, labour abuse, modern day slavery, tax avoidance and many other sinister crimes. This is an estimated £500 million lost in tax revenue, a pull factor for illegal migration, and the pollutants often used are damaging to the environment. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that it's time that we now step away from the voluntary scheme and have a mandatory scheme to protect people?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we expect all businesses to follow the law, including providing fair pay and working conditions for their employees. We're tackling exploitation in the labour market, especially by increasing funding for enforcement bodies to over £35 million a year, and we will continue to keep the position of hand car washes under close review.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in his comments about the coronation? Across the House, we're all looking forward to the celebrations this weekend. Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister know how many mortgage payers are paying higher rates since the Tory party crashed the economy last autumn?
Well, Mr. Speaker, our record on home ownership is crystal clear. Because of our tax cuts, 90% of first-time buyers now don't pay any stamp duty at all, Mr. Speaker. And last year we saw the largest number of people buying their first home in 20 years, Mr. Speaker. That's a Conservative government delivering on people's aspirations to own their own home.
Mr. Speaker, the question was how many people are paying more on their mortgages each month. And the answer that the Prime Minister avoided giving is 850,000. Nearly 1 million people paying more on their mortgage each month because his party used their money as a casino chip. That's why George Osborne called them economic vandals who created a self-inflicted financial crisis. Not for the Prime Minister and his non-dom thing, not for the super wealthy they gave tax cuts to, but for mortgage holders all across the country. So, does the Prime Minister know how many more people will be joining them on higher mortgage rates by the end of this year?
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the actions we're taking, in fact, the Bank of England is showing that public expectations of inflation have now eased to a 15-month low, Mr. Speaker. Consumer confidence is at the highest level that it's been at since Russia invaded Ukraine, and because of our stewardship of the public finances, we can see a clear way to reduce debt and bring interest rates down. But, Mr. Speaker, he keeps in this habit of quoting the former Labour shadow chancellors. We know that our plans will deliver lower inflation and lower interest rates, but we know that his plans just mean more debt, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, year after year after year. Those aren't my words, that's the assessment of the former Labour shadow chancellor.
Mr. Speaker, the question was how many more people this year are going to be paying more on their mortgages? And the answer that he avoided giving again, he knows these answers, he's got the stats there in front of him, 930,000 people. So by the end of this year, I know they don't want to talk about it, that's why he won't answer the questions. By the end of this year, nearly 2 million homeowners, counting the cost of the Tories' economic vandalism with every mortgage payment they make. And it's not just those who already own their home that are counting the cost of Tory recklessness. The average deposit for a first-time buyer is going up to £9,000. Does he even know how long it would take an average saver to put that sort of money aside?
Mr. Speaker, that's why we've introduced a 95% mortgage guarantee scheme, Mr. Speaker. It's why we're helping people in social housing own their own home through our first homes and our shared home ownership schemes. But, Mr. Speaker, I said these things are working because I said last year we had a record number of first-time buyers, the highest number in 20 years. It was, Mr. Speaker, twice the number of first-time buyers than Labour ever managed, Mr. Speaker. So whilst Labour failed homeowners, the Conservatives are delivering for them.
Mr. Speaker, every week, whatever the topic, he stands there and pretends everything is fine across the country. And every week he does so, he reinforces just how out of touch he is. £9,000, ha ha ha, £9,000 would take 4 years. They think it's funny that 4 years for the average saver to save £9,000, or to put it a different way in terms the Prime Minister will understand, roughly the annual bill to heat his swimming pool. But for most people, 4 more years of scrimping is a hammer blow to their ambitions. And now he's kicking them when they're down, because his decision to scrap housing targets is killing the dream of home ownership for a generation. Why doesn't he admit he got it wrong and reverse it?
Mr. Speaker, I promised to put local people in control of new housing, and I'm proud that that's what I delivered within 6 weeks of becoming Prime Minister. Now, he wants to impose top-down housing targets, he wants to concrete over the green belt and ride roughshod over local communities. Now, previously, Mr. Speaker, he did say, he's on record and saying, local people, local communities should have more power, more control. Now he's U-turned. Just another in a long list of broken promises.
Mr. Speaker, the only power is given to local communities not to build houses. And we know why he won't change course. He admitted it last month. His councillors simply don't want to build the houses local people need, so he's given them a way out. Picture the scene as he explains this to a family. Mum and Dad paying £4,000 extra on the mortgage because the Tories tanked the economy. Their eldest paying hundreds more in rent. Their youngest still stuck in the spare room because they need an extra £9,000 for a deposit. Then along comes the Prime Minister and merrily tells them, sorry for crashing the economy, we don't want to talk about that. Sorry I can't help you with the house building, but my councillors don't like it. Oh, and before I go, here's a massive council tax increase for your troubles. Why doesn't he stop the excuses, stop blaming everyone else, and just build some houses instead?
Mr. Speaker, our memories on that short. We all know what happened last time when they were in power. There was no money left for the country. But let's talk about the record. Let's talk about the Labour record on house building, Mr. Speaker. In London, the former Conservative mayor built 60,000 affordable homes in his first 5 years in office. How many did the current Labour mayor manage? Half of that, Mr. Speaker. In Wales, we need 12,000 new homes a year. How many have Labour built in the last year? Half of that, Mr. Speaker. As ever, Labour talk and the Conservatives deliver.
Mr. Speaker, debt doubled since 2010, growth down, tax up, the economy crashed. Mr. Speaker, they're going to need a bigger note. And it's right. But week after week, we debate the issues facing in this place. But looking beyond the elections tomorrow, we also have a hugely significant weekend coming up with the King's coronation. For most, this will be the first time they've seen a monarch crowned. And I hope, and I know across the House, people will hope that people across the country enjoy the ceremony, the street parties, and of course the extra day off. 300 million will tune in. The world will see our country at its best, celebrating the beginning of a new chapter in our history. But it will also be a reminder of the loss of our late Queen, Elizabeth II, and a chance again to remember all that she gave to our country through her dedicated service. So will the Prime Minister join me in honouring our late Queen and wishing the new King a long and happy reign?
Mr. Speaker, as I said at the outset, we're all looking very much forward to the coronation. It will be a very special moment in the history of our country, and I know that we will join with the country in celebrating it. But before we get to the coronation weekend, Mr. Speaker, we have an important day tomorrow, and the choice before the country is clear. When they go to that ballot box, they can see a party that stands for higher council tax, higher crime, and a litany of broken promises, Mr. Speaker. Meanwhile, we're getting on with delivering what we say with lower council tax, lower crime, and fewer potholes. The choice is clear. Vote Conservative, Mr. Speaker.
Minister McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labour run Kirklees Council, Mr. Speaker, as you know, have reneged on a deal to house the National Rugby League Museum at the George Hotel. They've also declared a climate emergency, but they have one of the worst recycling rates in the country. They're building on green fields and now on green belt. They're demolishing Home Firth indoor market. We're blighted by litter and fly tipping, and now they're proposing to chop down mature trees in urban areas. Does the Prime Minister agree with me?
No, you'll sit down a moment. I presume you're going to ask a question. You've made a great statement, great question.
Does the Prime Minister agree with me that local people can have their say on Kirklees' appalling record by voting Conservative this week?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right. It's typical Labour saying one thing and doing the other, Mr. Speaker. It's only the Conservatives that are going to protect the Green Belt. It's the Labour Party that are going to concrete over it, and that's why in Kirklees and elsewhere tomorrow vote Conservative, Mr. Speaker.
We now come to the Leader of the SNP, Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, in 2010, David Cameron convinced Nick Clegg to drop his pledge on university tuition fees. Does the Prime Minister intend to take the credit for convincing the leader of the Labour Party to do likewise?
I thank the honourable gentleman for the question. I'd say it's hard to keep up, Mr. Speaker, with a list of broken promises. What I would say on tuition fees is I'm proud that under this government we now have a record number of people that are going to university from disadvantaged backgrounds, Mr. Speaker, and that's because the efforts we've placed to put more money into supporting those people and those communities to fulfil their aspirations, alongside fantastic new apprenticeships in every part of our country.
Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of any doubt, the Liberal Democrats don't believe in abolishing tuition fees. The Conservatives don't believe in abolishing tuition fees, and of course the Labour Party, now with their own Nick Clegg moment, don't believe in abolishing tuition fees either. But Mr. Speaker, is it not the case that the main Westminster parties don't offer young people any hope at all, do they?
Actually, I'll gently point out to the honourable gentleman that if you're from a disadvantaged background, you're far more likely to go to university in England than you are in Scotland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner in Dorset has delivered 174 new police officers. He's quadrupled the rural crime team and has made Dorset the 6th safest county. As recorded crime is 34% higher under Labour Police and Crime Commissioners, does the Prime Minister agree with me that only Conservatives can be trusted to keep local communities safe and make sure offenders face the justice they deserve?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is right. It's a simple statement of fact. Crime is lower in areas which have Conservative police and crime commissioners, and I am delighted that Dorset has been selected as one of the areas to pilot our new immediate justice scheme, which will deliver swift and visible punishment so victims of antisocial behaviour know that it will be treated seriously and with all urgency.
Caroline Lucas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. His government's vile and immoral refugee ban bill and the toxic language coming from the Home Office isn't even dog whistle politics. It is a giant, hard-right foghorn blasting out a poisonous them and us narrative, and it plumbed new depths last week when the Home Office Minister claimed that people trying to come to the UK, and I quote, tend to have completely different values to those in the UK. Can he explain what he thinks is so different about the values held by the people of war-torn Sudan? And can he tell us what values are stopping him from creating a Sudanese family visa scheme like he did for the people of Ukraine?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this country has a proud history of welcoming almost 500,000 refugees over the past several years, and we will always continue to do so. But our ability to do that is absolutely hampered when we have tens of thousands of people illegally crossing the Channel every year. And it's precisely because we want to help the most vulnerable people, whether they be in Syria and Afghanistan, Sudan and elsewhere. We must get a grip of this problem, break the cycle of the criminal gangs, and target our resources and compassion on those who most need it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to this Conservative government and £1.8 million from the Brownfield Land Release Fund, the Conservative-led Solihull Council is getting on with regenerating Kingshurst Village Centre, creating space for new businesses and new homes. But when it comes to economic regeneration, none of the opposition parties have a viable plan. Not the Greens, not the Lib Dems, and not the Labour Party. And the Labour candidate has gone so far as to scare local people into thinking that the development won't go ahead, despite spades in the ground. So does the Prime Minister agree with me, while the opposition talk down opportunity and the creation of jobs, when it comes to investing in our communities, it's only the Conservative-led Solihull Council that can deliver jobs?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend, and I'm so glad to see the local Conservatives delivering for the people of Solihull with dozens of new family homes, new flexible commercial space, and a new integrated health, social care and community hub. As he said, it's clear for his local area, only the Conservatives can deliver.
Alan Brown.
Mr. Speaker, imagine seeing the car in front of you swerving erratically or suddenly braking for no reason, risking your car slamming into the back of that, endangering those daft enough not to wear seat belts. Now, this is not the actions of a drunk or reckless driver, but my constituents' experience using Tesla in autopilot mode. Software still in beta phase but deemed suitable for cars now public roads. Will the Prime Minister meet with me to discuss the issues with Tesla's autopilot and instigate an urgent critical safety review in terms of its suitability for operation and the licensing of it?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to hear about what happened to the honourable member's constituent. I'll ensure that he gets a meeting with the Transport Secretary to discuss the safe regulation of autonomous and self-driving vehicles.
Carl McCarthy.
Labour-run City of Lincoln Council has destroyed the 40-year reputation of our city's Christmas market and the Christmas cheer that Lincoln benefits from annually. The dereliction of their role, choosing to take the easiest option behind closed doors in secret, in cancelling the market, shows Labour's neglect and disregard for small local businesses, charities and entrepreneurs and voters. Labour councillors Lincoln should be ashamed of their actions and have rightfully been likened to the Grinch.
Order. Mr. Brennan. I don't need you shouting from the back row. I've always offered a cup of tea to this side, but it's equally opportunity for you to take one. Come on, Carmen.
I thank the member from the opposite side for the extra minutes he's given me, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow the people of Lincoln will have the chance to remove...
I will not count on that.
Tomorrow the people of Lincoln will have the chance to remove from office the anti-business, socialist Scrooges and elect local Conservatives. Does my right honourable friend the Prime Minister agree with me that for better run local services, business-friendly and support...
Order. I think in fairness to Prime Minister, I think the text went out. I think he's got the answer. Come on, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I share my honourable friend's disappointment that after a decision taken by the Labour-run council behind, as he said, closed doors, there will no longer be a Christmas market in Lincoln, ending its 40 years of history. Lincoln deserves better, and I urge the people of the city to vote Conservative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ahead of tomorrow's local elections, I've been campaigning in Medway and Swindon. The word on the doorstep is that people are ready for a change and will be switching their votes from the Conservatives to Labour. However, I am concerned that only 4% of those without valid ID have applied online for a voter authority certificate. So will the Prime Minister commit to a post-election review of how many people have effectively been disenfranchised by his government's response to the virtually non-existent problem of voter fraud?
Mr. Speaker, 98% of people already possess a suitable form of voter ID, and the government made available free alternative ID for those that do not have it. The pilots have demonstrated it hasn't significantly impacted turnout, and indeed this was a policy that was introduced by the Labour Party in Northern Ireland all those years ago. It's common in European countries, it's common in Canada, and it's absolutely right that we introduce it here too.
Dr. Mahindra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since getting elected in 2019, I've been inundated with correspondence from my constituents in South West Hertfordshire, rightly complaining about huge speculative developments on our beautiful Greenbelt land. Lib Dem controlled Three Rivers District Council continue to dither and delay their local plan. Does he agree with me that the choice tomorrow is simple? Vote Conservative to protect our greenbelt, or vote Lib Dem for massive developments on sport land?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend raises an important point, and it's always the same with Liberal Democrats, saying one thing and doing the other. We've all seen it, Mr. Speaker. It's the Conservatives that are party of local decisions taken by local people, and it's only the Conservatives that will protect the Greenbelt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unable to secure an NHS dental appointment, my constituent Ray was forced to go private. It was then discovered that he had a large aggressive tumour in his face and jaw, which required 16 hours of gruelling surgery to remove it. If he hadn't been able to afford it, Ray might not be with us now. This is yet another chapter in the horror story that is the decay of dentistry under this government's watch. So will the Prime Minister accept NHS dentistry is in crisis, and will he meet with me and the British Dental Association to ensure that no one loses their life because they couldn't get a dental appointment? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to hear what happened to the Honourable Lady's constituent, and that's why the NHS has recently reformed dental contracts to improve access. We now invest over £3 billion a year. There are over 500 more dentists working in the NHS this year than last year, and indeed discussions are ongoing between the Department for Health and the NHS around dentistry, and DHSC is planning to outline further reform measures in the near future.
So Deputy Clifton Brown.
Every single young person that gets on the housing ladder under a Conservative government makes our communities more sustainable. Would my right honourable friend agree that in order to build the right type of housing and speed it up, we need to fund planning authorities properly through innovative funding?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend as ever makes an excellent point, and that's why the reforms that we introduce will provide incremental resources to planning authorities to make sure that planning decisions can be taken quicker, but also we've strengthened the ability of local communities to put in place local plans. Mr. Speaker, this is the best way for our towns, cities, villages to have control over the development in their area and make sure that it happens in the way that they're comfortable with, and I know that he's supportive of that too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The recent ITV documentary Life and Debt Stories from the Edge followed Halifax mum Izzy. Her prepayment energy bills have tripled and she was relying on a local primary school, Ash Green, who are providing free breakfast, budget cooking classes and a hardship fund for their families. When head teacher Mungo Shepherd is asked does he worry about the children at school when he goes home at night, he says all the time, it never leaves you. Does the Prime Minister think it's right that things are so bad that schools are having to become the fourth emergency service for the families that they support?
Well, Mr. Speaker, because of the actions we've taken, a typical family, including those like Izzy's, will be seeing half of their energy bills paid for by the government. That is support worth £1,500 extended in the most recent budget. For the most vulnerable in our society, there's additional support, and £900 for those on welfare, Mr. Speaker, and through the holiday activity and food programme, support for families with the cost and support for food during the holidays. But I would also say, for Izzy and others that are in particular need, they should talk to their council, because the Chancellor has provided over £1 billion of funding to the Household Support Fund. It's there to help families like that that need a little bit of extra assistance during this time.
John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my honourable friend will be aware, today is World Press Freedom Day. At a time when the need for professional and factual journalism has never been greater, will my right honourable friend reaffirm the government's commitment to defending media freedom worldwide? And will he redouble the efforts of the government to obtain the release of Evan Gershkovich and Vladimir Kara-Murza in Russia and of Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong?
Mr. Speaker, the government is committed to defending media freedom worldwide, because thriving independent journalism is one of the cornerstones of democracy. We absolutely condemn the politically motivated sentencing of journalists across the world, and our embassies and missions work every day to protect media freedom where they are based, and I know that this is something that my right honourable friend has been a right champion of throughout his graduate career, and I will look forward to him continuing to do so from a different perch as I take rather fewer questions from him over the next few months from this position.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank our police forces, who I know will be working hard across the country this weekend to support the coronation events. But police numbers in the North East are down 8% since 2010, and I know the Prime Minister's keen on his maths, so here's a sum. If Northumberland Police has lost 1,000 police officers since 2010, but gained the funding to put back 615, by how much have the Conservatives shortchanged the North East?
So, Mr. Speaker, as we saw last week, there are now a record number of police officers across the country thanks to the actions of this government, and crime is 50% lower than it was when we took office. She talks about investing. She talks about investing in the North East. You know, when we invested Levelling Up Fund in her constituency, £20 million, she said it was transformational, Mr. Speaker. She said it would play an important role in rejuvenating her local area. That's this Conservative government delivering not just